Are you a policymaker? Are you looking for new solutions in your region? Are you interested in learning from other European regions facing similar challenges?
With Interreg Europe, you can develop your interregional cooperation project and get co-financing from the European Union. You can team up with other regions in Europe, exchange your experience and improve your regional development policies.
At Interreg Europe, we help regions from across Europe to develop and deliver better policies by sharing solutions. You can work on any topic of the EU policy agenda by making Europe greener, smarter, more social, better connected, better governed, or closer to citizens.
Our first call of project proposals will open on the 5th of April and close on the 31st of May. At midday, hurry up and get ready to submit your application.
Good morning and welcome to the first question and answer sessions for the first call of the new Interreg Europe program. My name is Verena. I'm a policy officer in the Interreg Europe program secretariat here in Lille, and I will be your host today for this session. So the purpose of this session is to answer the maximum of questions you may have around the first call of the new program, and the questions will be answered by my colleagues Nicolas Sanger, Head of Unit for Projects and Platforms, and Alexis François, Finance Officer. Hello to you too as well, and thanks for joining. We have already 67 participants in the session, more than 100 signed up, and I see people keep coming. Welcome to all of you from all over Europe. Before we start, I would like to get along with some housekeeping rules. So the questions you may ask today will be answered live on camera by Nico and Alexi, and the session will be recorded and the recording will be made available afterwards on the program website. You can ask your questions via Slido, so you can type in your browser slide.do and then use the hashtag #firstcallquestions to file your questions. You can also scan the QR code that shows on your screen right now, or you can click on the link that was provided in the Zoom chat. And yeah, well, please do not use the Zoom chat for the questions, so we will focus only on Slido for the management of questions. Alternatively, if you do not want to use Slido, you can also simply raise your hand in Zoom, and then I will give you the floor. And as I do, I would also ask you to switch on your microphone and camera to speak up and ask your question directly. So this session is scheduled for 1 hour. Let's see if we may need all this time, or maybe we'll be even needing more time. We'll see how it goes with the questions and how many you have. Now, before we start, I would also like to get to know you a little better. So to this end, we prepared a little survey, and I would like to ask my colleagues to show it. There you go. So the question I would like to ask you is how familiar you are with Interreg Europe. So there's 3 answer possibilities. Are you familiar with Interreg Europe? Yes, I've taken part in an Interreg Europe project. Somewhat, I've applied with a project before, but I was not successful. Or not really, I've heard about the program, but this is the first time I'm thinking about taking part in this project. So we'll leave this survey open for a little moment. Welcome again to those people that just joined. This is the first question and answer session for the first call for proposals of the new Interreg Europe program. And we are running right now this poll to see how familiar participants are with the Interreg Europe program. I also take this opportunity to thank my colleagues in the background, Josephine and Mia from the communication team, for running the back office of this session. So maybe we can close the survey and see the results now. Okay, so we have, pretty mixed audience seemingly. So 39% said that they've taken part in an Interreg Europe project before, so they might have quite some experience. 5% said that they are somewhat familiar with the program, and 56% said that they are not really familiar with the program. It's the first time that they're joining. So welcome to all of you. I hope that this session will bring, let's say, added value for all of you. Let's start right away with questions. We received some questions beforehand when people registered, so thanks for this, and we will start with those. And then as we go, we will also take more questions that you may file in Slido right now. So let's go. Very first question, and I think this one, well, probably goes to both of our speakers. It's a question from Angelique. What is required in terms of number of policy and specific objectives? So this one I would like to ask Nico, and then the next one is also what is required in terms of maximum budget per project?
Yes, good morning to you all. I'm very happy to see almost 100 participants at this first QA session. And thanks also for those who have asked questions already. Thanks, Angélique, for this. This is a very, very broad question to start with. So I could speak for a long time on the requirement of policy instrument as specific objective. It's two different questions. The first, I would start with the specific objectives. Is, as you may have seen in the program manual, you would need, when you apply to Interreg Europe, to select a very specific issue that you want to address in your project and the situation you want to improve in your region. Maybe it can be related to renewable energy, increase the use of renewable energy, or better integrate vulnerable groups in the labor market, or whatever. So you would really need to have a specific focus, and this specific focus will be reflected in the specific objective you select. In other words, you can only select one specific objective when you come to the program, and it's important to have a very focused project. A long time ago, we had a bit of application that wanted to do everything and tackling very different various subjects at the same time, and this really was an issue for the quality of the project, for the coherence of the approach. So we really advise you to be as focused and specific as possible. Then when you come to the number of policy instruments addressed, what you would like, the policy framework you would like to improve in your projects, I think this is a bit more related to the number of regions we envisage in each project. And again, I think Alexi will confirm there is no strict rules. It's only recommendations that are provided by the program. But we say in the manual that we expect between 5 to 8 regions working in a project. And this, of course, corresponds also to the number of policy instruments. The only thing that I would say, there's possibility to go beyond this. The more you have region, the more you address policy instrument, the more complex it becomes to manage, of course, such a project. But this is what I can say. It's around 5 to 8 policy instruments addressed per project.
Okay, thanks. Maybe Alexi, you can add on the second part of the question.
Yes, thank you, Nico. As you said, on the budget side, we also have a recommendation in the program manual, which is between 1 and 2 million ERDF per project. But as Nico said, actually, it's a recommendation, and it mainly also depends on the number of partners involved, on the type of activities you're organizing. So it will really depend on how you build your activities, because the budget is actually built around and designed around the activities and not the other way around.
Okay, so to sum up, I think as for the size and the budget, it's really fit for purpose. The recommendation on the program is between 5 to 8 partners, 1 to 2 million of euro of ERDF budget. And when it comes to the topic, try to be as narrowed and specific as possible. Okay, thanks for this. So we move on with the next question from Ariadna. We're looking for partners for our projects. How can we do it? Nico, any advice?
Yes, I can try to give a few tips to Ariadna. I don't know if Ariadna participated in last week events, but we organized the Europe Let's Cooperate conference last week, and this was one of the objectives, is really to network and find possible new partners. If you missed it, you can still use, I think, our website, where you have a possibility to publish your project ID and define what kind of partners you are looking for. So hopefully this could be a powerful tool for you to look for partners. The other way around is also possible. You can look at other project ID, and if one or two look very similar than yours, you may also get in touch with this other owner of the project ID. And for this, you of course need to be a member and to register on our community. Then there is other ways to find partners. You may yourself have been involved in other EU programs in the past, other EU initiatives, and you may have some good contacts with other regions in Europe. So that's another way maybe to see with your organization what are the partnership of your organization. And maybe a third element, but it very much depends in which area of regional development you are involved. There are a lot of Brussels-based organizations. Most of the time they are in Brussels, EU networks of regions that can also sometimes be a very good platform to find the relevant partners. Maybe your own institution or your region is a member of such association. I won't name them because there are so many, but this is a way also sometimes to find the relevant partners for your project.
Okay, thanks, Nico. I guess there's way more. I mean, many other ways also to find partners, but that's probably some good ideas. At the end of the day, any way to find partners or look for partners is probably a good way, as long as if it's efficient. So also up to you to get creative in a way. But of course, the program is here to support you with the partner search tool that Nico mentioned. The next question also adds on to the partnership, finding partners. Sylvia is asking, I would like to know to what extent the geographical coverage matters. Is it better to choose consortium partners based on their track record and reliability, or to include some who cover a certain geographical area? Nico, I think this is also for you.
Yes, thanks, Sylvia, because it's a very interesting question. I would not necessarily oppose the geographical coverage from the quality or the reliability of the partners. For me, it's not contradicting at all. What I would like first to say is that Interreg Europe is the only Interreg program that is pan-European. So we indeed attach a lot of importance to the geographical coverage of our projects. In the previous programs, the poor geographical coverage was a main source of weakness for the application we were receiving. They were mainly transnational in nature, sometimes even smaller than that. So you may have noticed that in this first call for proposal, the program has defined 4 different areas, regrouping countries in north, east, south, and west of Europe. And there is a very strong requirement in this first call is that you have to ensure that in your partnership, there's at least one partner from each of this area. So from that point of view, you can say that the geographical coverage really matters. It matters so much that it becomes an eligibility criteria now. However, what I would like to add also is that at the end of the day, it's very important to find the most relevant partner and regions for the issue you address. You need to make sure that you really share the same need, that they can bring something to your cooperation, that you may learn from them, they may learn from you. They may have the same characteristics, I don't know, because you are working on mountain or rural or peripheral areas. And this is at least as important as the geographical coverage. We hope this criteria of having the 4 areas represented will not lead to artificial partnership and consortium. And last remark from my side about the track record. Of course, it's better if you know that one of your partner has been involved in different Interreg or maybe in Horizon 2020. You know that you can rely on them. They have a track record in European programs. But you may be surprised that for us, we are really also trying to open up the programs to newcomers, to organizations, regions that are not necessarily the ones that are usually going in European projects. So we also appreciate, I would say, when you can demonstrate in your partnership that you have also sometimes rather new partners in European program, new regions. It's a sign of, it can be a sign of quality, and we would like to have as many regions involved as possible, including the one that were never perhaps involved, in particular in Interreg Europe.
Super, thanks, Nico. And Sylvia, and to everyone else out there, in terms of reference with the specific requirements and the eligibility criteria for the partnership are available on our website. And I think the colleagues can also post a link in the chat. So you may want to give us a look there to get familiar with those requirements. Okay, thanks, Nico. We move on with another question also related to the content of the projects. And I think afterwards, Alexi, there will be a few questions in store for you for the budgets. So, but first, once more, back to Nico. Cecilia is asking, can a county level action plan owned by our institution be considered as an eligible policy instrument in an Interreg Europe project?
Yeah, it's difficult for us to answer like this. You may have noticed there's a definition of policy instruments, what we consider as policy instruments in the manual, and this definition is quite open, to be honest. It's a means of public intervention, and usually it can be a strategy, it can be a program, like the operational program of the cohesion policy, it can be a law sometimes, and why not? It may be an action plan of a county council, for instance, if this action plan is an official document with a clear strategy behind and a clear public intervention behind. It's possible that this would qualify indeed as a policy, as a possible policy instruments in the sense of Interreg Europe. But again, our definition is quite open, and it's very closely related to the notion of public intervention. So very, very often these policy instruments, in the vast majority of cases, they are developed by public authorities, I would say.
Okay, thanks, Nico. I think that's pretty clear. Alexei, now we come to some budget-related questions, and I can see that Barbara had actually several questions. So the first one is if VAT is eligible in the framework of Interreg Europe.
The answer is yes. In the new regulations, VAT is eligible, even if as an institution you can recover it. So yes.
Okay, thank you. Short question, short answer. Next one, does the staff cost budget line include also additional staff to be appointed on the project?
Okay, this question also echoes a bit with the question posted by Xenia on the chat. So yes, this is possible to hire additional people, if you need additional resources to work on the project and put some people on the activities. So this is definitely possible, and then the cost can be reported to the program. But to answer to Xenia, it's not mandatory. If you already have internal, let's say enough internal resources to allocate people to the project, then it's not mandatory, of course, to hire additional people.
Okay, but it's possible if needed.
It's possible, definitely.
Great, thanks. Okay, the next question is about the co-financing. So Barbara is also asking if the public co-financing of 15% is assured for public and private partners in Italy.
Okay, so maybe a short reminder here, because Barbara is mentioning a 15% co-financing coming from the partner, so as a contribution. But I'd like to remind you that the co-financing rates, the ERDF co-financing rates changed for this new programming period. So it's now 80% for public entities and 70% for private non-profit bodies. So it means that the contribution to be brought by the partners will be a bit higher, 20 and 30%. Now to reply to the answer related to Italy providing or not the co-financing, at the moment, with the information we have, it seems it will be the case, as it was also the case in the previous programming period, that they will provide the contribution for public and private partners. But we invite you to check this directly with the Italian contact point to have the latest news.
Okay, thanks, Alexei. And I think the contact details for the point of contact for Italy and for any other country, by the way, are also available on the program website. And yeah, the point of contact, that's also, let's say, an important resource for you in your country if you have, let's say, more country-specific questions. So feel free to contact those colleagues.
And we can actually put the link maybe on the chat as well, so that people find it easily.
And maybe we can put the link indeed. Okay, thanks for this, Alexei. One more question about research fellowships. Are they eligible under staff costs?
This is a rather specific question, and we would invite you to check with your national approbation body directly, or centralized FLC body, the contractual details of a research fellowship in your country. You can also read the program manual, namely the sections dedicated to the budget categories, staff cost, and external expertise and services. This would help you to see if a fellowship fulfills condition to be reported rather under staff cost or under external expertise. And maybe a last, let's say, general reminder, a person needs to be directly employed by the project partner to be considered as staff. So.
Okay, that's probably also an important piece of information. So check the program manual, and in case of doubts, you may want to get in touch with the control authorities in your country. Okay. Marisa is asking, related to the flat rate for travel costs, will there be a rule to be followed? For instance, number of travels during the period, number of people traveling, and so on, to apply that to the flat rate, or will it be applied independently from those other points?
Okay, it's a very interesting question. Actually, the travel cost based on the flat rate will only depend on one thing, the amount of staff cost that you will report in a progress report. So it will be calculated automatically based on this, and there will be no other additional conditions to receive the travel cost flat rate. So it's pretty much, I mean, it will be working exactly as the administration cost flat rate that you are already familiar with. And if I can give you an example, for instance, if in progress report 1, you report 10,000 euros of staff cost, then automatically the system would allocate 1,500 euros of travel cost to you.
Okay, so it works like a fixed percentage of the staff cost reported, right?
Exactly.
What is
no
the
additional
percentage?
conditions. It's 15%.
15%,
exactly.
Right? Okay, super. Thanks. Okay. Angelique is asking, the requirement for policy responsible authorities, are they needed for each participating region or country? And I think this question I would turn it to Nico.
Yes, thanks, Angelique, for this question. We are touching now a very important notion of the program, which is the one of policy responsible authority. What we mean by that is the authority that is responsible for the policy instruments you have indicated in your application form. I don't know if you had a look already at the application form. You will be asked each time to say which main policy you would like to improve. And of course, behind this, who is responsible for these policy instruments. So indeed, for each policy instruments, we would need to have the involvement of the policy responsible authority ensured. That's very important due to the rationale of this program. We are a policy learning program, a capacity building program dedicated to policymakers involved in regional development policy. And I won't re-explain the whole rationale of this rule, but we have been working 20 years on these questions of policy learning, improving regional development policy. And at the end of the day, if you don't have the authority that is in charge of these policies, the chance of the project to really improve or to have significant impact on the policy is decreasing very significantly. So if you want to be serious with the program objective, you really need to have the policymakers on board. The only thing I would say to be complete on this question is that this requirements has two forms. It's for half of the policy instruments. This policy responsible authority needs to be a partner. That's an obligation. If it's more, it's even better. And then for the remaining policy instruments, this authority would need to be involved as an associated policy authority. That's how we call it. It's a new status, which is a bit lighter because there won't be any financial commitment from this organization. There won't be any budget. But to make it short, yes, it's very important that for each regions and each policy instruments, this organization is involved. Verena, if you allow me, I'll do a last remark in relation to the question, on research fellowship, yeah, how do you call them? Alexis mentioned all the technical rules. This kind of questions in a broader context, also for Interreg Europe, is a bit weird because we would need to understand why research fellowship would make sense in a program dedicated to policymaking, to exchange of experience among public authorities. I don't say this is not possible, of course, but we would need to understand how this contributes to the overall policy learning and the overall objective of the project in which this is proposed to be totally complete.
Totally. Okay, thanks. So yeah, to the question of Angelique, really important to have the policy responsible authorities on board, ideally as partner, or else if it's not possible as associated policy authorities, and just make sure that you meet the requirements with the 50% rule that was explained by Nico. And you can also find more information in the program manual, of course. Okay, let's move on. The next question, can clusters which are partially financed by public body be a lead partner? I don't know, maybe Alexis, you want to take this question or?
Yeah, I can take it if you want, and Nico will complement if anything is missing. Just to remind you that lead partners can only be public or equivalent, public equivalent entities. so they cannot be considered as private non-profit entities to be lead partners. To make sure of this, we ask like the countries to verify the legal status of the partners applying, and if it's confirmed that you can be considered as a public or equivalent public entity, then you could act as lead partner.
Okay, I think that's clear. So make sure like read the definition of the legal status in the program manual, and if you have doubts, you can contact again the national point of contact in your country. Chiara is asking, regarding the 20 to 30% co-financing, is it foreseen reimbursement for each participating country? And in this case, where is it possible to find the specific information? Maybe Alexi.
Yeah, okay, so we close a bit with the question received by Barbara, I think. We don't have the information for each country, so we don't necessarily know if each country is financing also is helping the partners with the contribution part. So this is why we would invite you to check this directly with the contact point in your country.
Okay, thanks. Next question, Edita is asking, is it possible to work on ecology and climate neutrality? Maybe Nico.
Very simple answer, yes. If you want a longer answer, I could say that we have several policy objectives, several topics in our program. And the second one is called Greener Europe. And under this Greener Europe, you will find various subjects related to environmental consideration. And of course, subjects like ecology, climate neutrality, as long as they are tackled from the policy, of course, angle and related to policy learning and improving regional development policies, are fully possible in this program without any problem.
Super, thanks, Nico. That's good news for Edita, probably. Diana is asking about a specific section in the program manual regarding the innovative character of partnerships. So we write, a new proposal includes only 1 or 2 regions from a previous project. Does, in this case, region mean partner? And will you accept the same regions or countries with new partners with a new topic to work on it? Nico, so this is about the innovative character of the partnership.
Yes, this is an interesting question, and there are several elements behind this question, because this paragraph in the manual on the innovative character is particularly important for those of you. We saw I think the poll at the beginning that a lot of you are already involved, perhaps in Interreg Europe in some projects. If you plan to come back in the first call, for you, it's very important to take this innovative character criteria into consideration, because Interreg Europe, or I think any Interreg program, is not there to simply finance the continuity of the same project, the same partners on the same topic. So that's the first point I want to say. This element is mainly important for what we call follow-up projects. Now, what do we mean by region? It's true, it's not always perhaps totally clear. The region is used in a broad sense. It's even defined at the beginning of the manual as an equivalent of the territory represented in the partnership. I give you an example. If you have, for instance, the region of Andalusia, represented in the region, it may be through the Generalitat, the regional authority of Andalusia, and maybe also another agency from Andalusia, because the subject is important. So there will be 2 partners from this region representing Andalusia and trying to improve the regional strategy for carbon neutrality, for instance, by 2030. So you understand, this is more the regions in a sense of the policy instruments and the territory represented. Now, the last thing in this question, which is important, is that you are saying that 1 or 2 organizations will come back maybe in a project on a different topic. You should not worry too much then on the innovative character, because if you are working on a complete new project, we know already that a lot of the beneficiaries of the 2014-2020 period will, of course, come back and will be again a beneficiary in the new programming period. Nevertheless, there is another paragraph which is also on multiple involvement. I don't know if you saw that in the manual. We are also careful not to finance over and over again the same organization. That's not the aim. So if you know already that your regions, of course, depending on the size, and sometimes it's understandable that big regions, they go in different projects. But if you know that you will be involved in several applications, it would be nice to explain a bit to justify why you are involved in several applications for this first call. But there's a dedicated question in the application form on this.
Yes, okay. I hope that's clear. Yes, we're gonna add on with a question for Martina. And she's writes, probably there's a second part to it. Well, we start with part one, Martina. Is it possible to have 3 partners from the same area and country, example Italy, plus other 3 companies from 3 different areas? More specifically, if the lead partner from Italy wants help from 2 other Italian partners, is it okay? So about the geographical composition of the partnership, Nico.
Yes. I'm not sure I fully understand the element. I would answer that in principle, it's possible to have several partners from the same country or even from the same region. I would rather think in terms of policy instrument. Which is the strategy or the policy you want to improve in which territory? And then this is a starting point. We say that, for instance, if it's, I don't know, Emilia-Romagna strategy in economic development that you would like to improve, it's totally possible that Emilia-Romagna, again, come with the region of Emilia-Romagna and maybe the regional development agency or the innovation agency, because they are very important for this policy, even if they are not the policy responsible authority. So you could have this territory represented by 2 or 3 partners addressing the same policy instrument. It's totally fine for the program. What is a bit more tricky, and you need to be more careful, is when the same country, Italy, is represented by 2 different regions. So you may have Emilia-Romagna and Tuscany represented in the same project. This is a bit less recommended because there may be already an unbalance that one country is represented by 2 different partners. So of course, more budget go to that. It's not impossible, of course, but then you would need to justify why this presence of the 2 different regions from the same country are essential for the project and are really needed. And you need to make sure also that there's not too much unbalanced in the finances, that all the budget, of course, go to the same country. That's more or less the way I can answer to this question.
And now we see actually there's a second part. So Martina also writes that in the end, the proposal will have 3 will be extended with 3 countries from 3 different areas for a total of 6 members. So I think she's now referring to this 4 areas: North, South, East, and West of Europe. So I guess that will be fine, right, Nico?
Yes, we come back again to this geographical coverage, of course. So if you have Italy, you need, of course, to have a partner also from North, East, and West, because Italy represents the South area. So you need to ensure this. And maybe the 6 members, I think Martina means that these 3 other areas, there's only 1 partner there, but from Italy, there are more partners coming.
3.
You would need to justify a bit this arrangement. It's not impossible, but we would recommend you to be very clear on why you need such a configuration.
Okay, so it's also, let's say, a little bit of a case-by-case assessment for this kind of questions. Okay. Elmer is asking, 50% of the partnership members should be policymakers or owners of a policy instrument. If the partner is not a policy owner, but comes to the consortium together with an associated policy authority, is this part of the 50% partnership?
So every word is important there. We need to be careful with the wording. I think what Irma means is that 50% of the partnership members should be policymakers. What we mean by that is that for half of the policy instruments, you need to have the policy responsible organization as partners. And partners it's a very specific definition in the manual. You have a budget, you are in the application form, you are part fully of the project. Then the second part, when you say If the partner is not a policy owner, but comes as an associated policy authority, no, this is not considered under the 50%, because this applies to the policy instrument or the region that didn't manage to have the policy responsible authorities as a partner, which is the most important. And as Verena said earlier, we encourage as much as possible that the policy responsible authorities come when possible as partner.
Okay, so in other terms, I think what's important to keep in mind that if the policy responsible authority is involved as an associated policy authority, it doesn't have the partner status. And it doesn't have an
and
own
it doesn't
budget.
count
Yeah.
under the 50% requirement then.
Yes, okay. And the requirement also, I mean, also to underline, the requirement for the 50% is per policy instrument. So for half of the policy instruments, you need the responsible partner. It's, I mean, like, don't get confused, because some people may count the partners, but there might be cases where actually you have maybe two partners addressing the same policy instrument. So in this case, you should apply the rule on the policy instruments and not on the number of partners. Okay. Another question about pilot actions. So we're moving ahead now and we're to the content of the projects. Nico, are pilot actions obligatory?
Not at all. Not at all. I hope we don't give this impression in the manual. On the contrary, they are not exceptional, but especially at the start of the project, it's quite challenging to design a pilot action. You need a very intense preparation phase to see what could be the pilot actions based on the experience of your partners that you have identified. So in no case, pilot actions are obligatory. A majority of our projects are very successful and they don't have any pilot actions included, and this will remain, I think, the case in the future.
Okay, thanks, Nico. I think that's clear. Well, I see that session is really busy. Thanks a lot for all this advice and all this, let's say, wisdom you're sharing here. I give you a very short break and would like to ask the audience how far they are actually. I mean, I would like to know if you are likely to submit your project proposal during this call. So please let us know how far you are with your project idea. And yeah, it's really great to see so many questions on Slido. The list is filling up. We have more than 100 participants, 108 participants right now in the session. Thanks a lot for your interest in the program and for being so active in this session. Okay, we let the poll run for another few more seconds. Okay, I hope you had time to answer. Maybe Mia, show us the results. How likely are you to submit your project proposal? 35% said very likely, 27% said somewhat likely, 13% said not very likely, and 24% said I don't know yet. So that probably reflects a little bit the results of the first survey. We have a very mixed audience in here, but I hope that after the end of this session, the people very likely the percentage will increase and that we will see some of your proposals by the end of the call, which ends 31st of May. It wasn't said yet, I think. So thanks for this. Let's move on with the questions on Slido. The next one, I think it also goes to Nico. Will each partner still have to produce an action plan at the end of the core phase?
No. So I'm sure this question comes from an experienced partner from the 2014-2020, where indeed this was obligatory after the core phase, or we call it the phase one at that time. Now I think the approach is even much more logical now. You have 3 years to try to transform the learning into actions, to try to improve your public interventions thanks to what you learn. For all the regions that are successful after these 3 years in financing a new project, in changing the way they implement the policy, there will be no need for action plans. The action plans is only needed for the regions that will not be able to demonstrate any policy improvement by the end of the core phase. So hopefully this would make the life much easier, I think, of the projects and beneficiaries.
Super. Thanks for this reply, Nico. The next question is again related to finances and budget. So Alexis, I think it goes to you. Could you please tell us if in connection with the project it becomes necessary to employ additional employees? Do we understand correctly that the self-financing is 50% and 85% of the budget can be taken from the subsidy of the project?
Okay, thank you, Verena. I think this is the question that Xenia posted first on the chat. So I already replied to the first part, but to the second part related to the co-financing rate. So to go back to what I was saying earlier, it depends on your legal status. If you are a public entity or an equivalent public body, then it would be 80% ERDF that you would receive. If you are a private non-profit body, then it would be 70%. So it means that the contribution part that you have to bring would be between 20 and 30%.
Yes, indeed. I think we touched this topic before. So thanks a lot, Alexi, for completing.
No problem.
Let's move on. Anna is asking, is it possible to address policy instruments that are still in the approval phase? And as an example, and that's a very frequent example, is a new generation of structural funds programs or investment for jobs and growth programs for the 2021-27 period. Nico, what would you say?
Yes, this is possible. Anna, it's an important question, especially because we haven't mentioned it yet, but there's another requirement for each project is at least that one of the policy instruments is an investment for jobs and growth programs. So it's very important that you investigate this. And what we say that the most important is that you have a fair idea of the policy instrument already. Of course, it should not be totally at the first stage where you don't even know the priority, etc. But I think for this program, there are no really most of them in the final stage. They will be submitted to the Commission or are already submitted. So you know the priorities, you know where maybe it's a bit weak and you should improve certain aspect of this operational program. So you can refer to the OP even if it's not approved yet by the Commission or if it's only in its final phase.
Okay, and somewhat related to this question also, can we consider as managing authority of a regional operational program, the regional ministry in charge of the policy or the specific objective we are addressing, even though the regional operational program signing ministry is a regional ministry of finance of the same government?
It's a very interesting question, this, because we come back to an eligibility element. So it's very important that you don't make mistakes on this. If you, for instance, focus on a pure environmental, let's say the Green Deal or Greener Europe, I think it's totally logical that the Ministry of Environment would be involved and may be considered as the policy responsible authority, even if the Ministry of Environment is not officially the managing authority of the operational program, and you are trying to improve the operational program. So I would be very careful because our vision of this as a technical secretariat of the program, we think it would make sense to have the Ministry of Environment have the policy responsible authority. However, because it's true that it's not the real ministry officially that is in charge of the operational program, you would need to check this with your national point of contact, whether this would be possible or not. Otherwise, you would have the Ministry of Environment because it's the most relevant in terms of topic, and maybe the Ministry of Finance would come as associated policy authority. But bon, it makes the things a bit more complicated in a way, but at least you would be sure you would match some of the requirements of the program.
Okay, thanks, Nico. So let's say if the policy instrument I want to address is my regional operational program, but I really have no idea who is responsible, who's the managing authority. How can I proceed? What would you advise, Nico?
It's important, this question, because we have just published on the website a table. If you go in each country, you will have access to this table where you will see details on the operational program of the different member states. Be very careful because in most of the countries, the information is not updated yet. You will see whether it refers to 2014, 2020 or 21-27. But even for 2014, 2020, I think it will give you quite a fair idea on who is responsible in your country for these funds. You may even contact them to see if the configuration remains the same for the new period.
Okay, so that's probably also a really helpful resource for people that are working on structural fund programs. Thanks, Nico. Okay, the next question is about, I think, policy improvements and implementation. You should implement the policy improvements you make. What is meant with implementation exactly? Because sometimes the process to change policy might take more than 3 years. Is it okay then to start with the implementation process? or do you need to be able to finish the implementation?
That's another important question, which is more about the monitoring and the implementation later on of the project. And to be honest, we are quite strict with this element in the program, because every semester you will be asked, where are you with your exchange of experience? Did you manage to do something in your regions? Did you achieve any policy improvement? And one of the criteria you could refer, I think it's appendix 2 in the manual. We have certain questions to check whether or not we can validate a policy improvement. And among the criteria is that something needs to have taken place. So the change must have occurred in the region. We know it's very challenging. We know policy making can be very long, and nobody will blame you in case after 3 years it was not totally possible. The most important is that you do your best to try to improve the policies. And again, I would say a last point. We are very open with the notion of policy improvement. Sometimes it's simply having a new small project in the region that was inspired by others is already considered as a policy improvement, and sometimes it's not so difficult. Or sometimes the way you would communicate the selection criteria, or you change the selection criteria for your policy instruments, already all these small elements can be considered as policy improvement. So on one hand, we are very open with the notion of policy improvement. On the other hand, I confirm that the change needs to have taken place, so we consider it as a policy improvement.
Okay, thanks, Nico. That's let's say very much ahead thinking, but important to understand how this works. Okay, Sophia is asking. My question is about. Sophia is asking, which are the main differences between this project call and the Interreg Alpen Space project call? I don't know, Alexi, Nico, who wants to take it?
Maybe I can start, and if Alexi wants to add anything. First, to be honest, we are not specialist of the Alpine Space Program. It's a transnational program. But what I can say is that I can remind you a bit of the characteristics of Interreg Europe, which make it a bit unique and very different from any other Interreg program. So we are the only inter-regional program, that's the jargon of the regulation of the Commission, meaning we are the only one covering all the European Union, the 27 member states, as well as Norway and Switzerland. This is already a fundamental difference with Alpine Space, which cover only the countries, 7, I think, countries around the Alpine area. That's very easy to understand. But the most important, and people sometimes forget this, the difference is also in terms of objective and what we are doing. Interreg Europe is the only Interreg program dedicated to improving regional development policies through capacity building, through exchange of experiences. And this means two consequences. First, we are primarily dedicated to public authorities and to policymakers. It's a big difference with other Interreg, cross-border and transnational. Secondly, we are dedicated to capacity building activities, learning activities, exchange of experience. We are not a research program. We are not an investment program. You won't be able to implement a lot of local things in your project with Interreg Europe. It's much more to find inspiration elsewhere, to exchange with others, so then you can improve what you're doing in your region. These two elements makes us very, very different from Alpine Space and from all other transnational programs.
Okay, thanks, Alexi. Do you want to add something?
No, I think Nico said it all, and I'm no specialist. About Alpine Space, so I wouldn't know anything else about the budget. But as Nico said, we are very specific, and the budget is also built around the specificities, around the exchange of experience activities. We don't have hard investment usually, so it's a really different rationale.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think it's clear. It's a different rationale, different activities, different purpose, and also different geographical area included in the program. Okay, Gennaro was asking how many research partners a proposal can have. What is the limit? Say how many of them, like how many partners, let's say out of 10 to 12 partners can be research partners? Nico.
Yes, first it depends what you mean by research partners, but I can imagine it's universities, research institutes, this kind of organization. For me, this is not perhaps a way to turn the question. The real question is, what are the policy instruments I would like to improve? What is the local situation that I would like to improve? This is the first core questions. Deriving from this are the policy responsible authorities in charge of this public intervention. And in case the subjects you are addressing, because it's education, improving education policies, or improving innovation, the quadruple helix, maybe then the involvement of certain organization, research institution may be completely relevant and may make sense. Then you can have them as partners. But to say what is the limit, that we don't have limits. How many out of 10, 12 partners? Maybe I should do the other way around. If out of the 10, 12 partners, it's only universities. No, it cannot even be the case now, because half of them needs to be the policy responsible authorities. But for me, the question is much more how much the policy responsible authorities are involved as partner. It's much more the quality criteria than thinking about the research partner. Again, if I want to be very blunt, very direct, Interreg Europe is not a research program. It's not there. There's so many other programs that can help research, transnational, cross-border, Horizon 2020. So be very careful, because you should really check first if Interreg Europe can help you and can answer your need, I would say.
Okay, thanks. And maybe I can add, in the application form, you will have to describe for every single partner, let's say, the role in the project. And I mean, when assessing this, I mean, it will be checked, and it should be, you know, like, again, to the purpose of the program, which is helping the authorities to deliver better regional policies. So this is why the involvement of research partners is probably limited. So next question. This is the first call. When is the second one? The second call planned, Nico?
Alexi may answer also, but we envisage one call per year. Everything will depends on how many applications we will receive in the first call. Ideally, we would like to launch the second call in the first semester of 2023.
Okay, thanks. Next question. Can an advisory partner receive funding? This one I will turn it to Alexi. Can an advisory partner receive funding?
Yes, could I unmute myself? Yes, an advisory partner can receive funding. This is the whole point. They are really like participating in the activities. They have usually a specific role. Sometimes it's they bring their communication skills. Sometimes it's really because they are specialists of a topic addressed by the project. So yes, of course, they receive funding and they actively participate in the activities.
Okay. And advisory partner should not be, let's say, mixed up or confused with associate policy authority. Just to make this clear. Next question again about policy instrument. What is considered a policy instrument for which we are responsible for? A law, an internal act of our public administration governative body that identifies us as responsible for a specific policy. So Nico, what is a policy instrument, and how to define the policy authority, the policy responsible authority?
Yeah, I think we have tackled this a bit earlier in the question, that the notion of policy instrument is very open. What I would be careful in the question, it's not something internal to your organization. It's something that is implemented on the ground to improve a certain situation. So that's the notion of public intervention really behind the policy instrument, but it's very open because it can be indeed a law sometimes. Most of the time it's a strategy, it's a program that the public authorities are developing to reduce CO2 emissions, to help SME competitiveness, this kind of element. And then when you know what is a policy instrument, you know who has developed it and will deliver it. And usually this is the organization that we call the policy responsible authority. In most cases, they are public, but there may be some exceptions to that. Again, this is a very open question, so it's not for me easy to answer, but I can just repeat the principles.
Okay, thanks. We have an anonymous question. Can one institution apply as a partner in several proposals under the first call?
So that's what we tackled also a bit earlier. It's possible, but you would need to justify it. We would really advise to be selective, and it's already demanding to prepare good applications with the right partners. So we would prefer organization to concentrate on one very good application rather than perhaps be involved in several where you have less time to prepare it seriously. But there is a dedicated question in the application to ask if you are in several applications, you would need to justify a bit.
So possible, but should be justified. Okay. Would you advise that we implement most of the project meetings online?
It's a very interesting question, especially after the 2 years we went through. I think we have all learned new ways of working together, and especially in international affairs and interregional cooperation. The lessons learned is that we will certainly work differently, that's for sure. And you may have noticed in the manual that we are now referring much more to be careful to the new tools. So the online can help a lot. On the other hand, we don't think a full online project would make sense. Nothing, and it's nice, I think hopefully nothing will replace the face-to-face meeting, visiting places, meeting the stakeholders concretely, understanding them, spending an evening with them. So the exchange of experience and the learning has sometimes this need of physical exchange, face-to-face exchanges. So it's up to you to define the right balance between the online and the physical events. But the fact that you consider seriously when do we need really to meet, when we can do it online is certainly appreciated, and it needs to be reflected in the approach you will describe in the project.
Yeah, so it can probably be a mix between both like physical and virtual activities. Okay. The next question, Alexia, I think it goes to you. Is there any guidance on how we use the exchange of experience, external support, cost category? For instance, if such cost categories are planned by each partner, would that question the competence of the consortium?
Okay, that's a very good question. Actually, it's fine for us if you need to bring competencies or knowledge from outside, you know, if you don't have like the internal resources for a specific activity, a specific task that you're supposed to carry out, it's fine. So I would say that this budget category, this specific, let's say, subcategory under external expertise should be used whenever you don't have the internal resources to achieve and work on one of the activities. So this has to be clearly linked to the activities in the work plan. What we would not like to see is, let's say, that you are systematically planning external cost for all activities, and you have it for everything. You have a high amount of external expertise. So this would be a problem for us. But if the amount, again, on the contrary, if the amount is reasonable and then you really need for specific activities this external expertise, then it's totally fine. But at the end of the day, also the message we want to pass here is that the capacity building activities should benefit to the staff primarily. So we would definitely question a budget where every single activity and task is externalized.
Okay, thanks, Alexi. I hope it became clear. So I'm checking the time. We're already very close to 11. Stay tuned. If you have a few more minutes, we will move on. There's a few questions left, so I hope that maybe we need another more 10 or 15 minutes to close the session. So you're welcome to stay a little longer. In the meantime, my colleagues just launched also the feedback survey. So we would appreciate if you, well, let us know simply if the session met your expectations and how useful it was for you. So please feel free to answer those. In the meantime, we will move on with some questions. If you have to leave, don't worry. The recording will be made available. And also we have more sessions programmed in the coming weeks. So you may want to come back a little later if you have more questions. So we have one more question related to the policy instruments. Nico, can an official economic or development plan managed by the country or the city council be considered as a policy instrument?
Yes, it's very similar to one question we received earlier, but now it's a bit more specific. And the economic development strategy of a county council is exactly what we see as policy instruments. So I can say yes without any doubt. Yeah.
Okay, that's clear. If we understand correctly from the manual, should reporting of the follow-up phase be also planned on a 6-month basis? Except for semester 8, which will have a plus of 3 months for the closure. Is that correct? And are there any costs, for instance, administrative costs or FLC costs that are eligible within this 3 months closure period? So this is more of a, let's say, legal and financial question. Alexi, what would you answer?
Yes, so your understanding is correct. Actually, you will have a 6 months reporting for the first, let's say phase of this follow-up phase, and you will have then 6 plus 3 months for the last report. So the disclosure phase is actually dedicated to the closure of the project, as the name stands out for it. And of course, the cost will still be eligible at that moment. So we actually created this follow-up phase as like this to allow you to focus really during 1 year on the activities, and then to have 3 additional months to really just close the last activities, take care of the reporting, and just pay the last cost. So yes, FLC costs, for instance, will be eligible if they are paid during this closure phase.
Okay, thanks, Alexi. And this can also be, like further information about this can also be found in the program manual, for which the link was already posted in the chat earlier today. Is there a prerequisite for associations and other non-profit organizations to be eligible? Alexi.
I think, again, it's good if you're not sure about it to check directly with your country representatives to see if you're eligible to the program funding. Also, another point of attention that I would like to raise here is if you're an association and eligible, keep in mind that if you want to report staff cost, the people that you want to bring in, they have to be directly employed by you. So this is very important for associations, especially since we know that you have networks a bit everywhere sometimes. So this is a very important point to keep in mind as well when planning your budget.
So it could be eligible, but depends really on the legal status. And in case of doubt, we would invite everyone to check with their national point of contact. Okay. We have a question, next question. We are an NGO partnering with the municipality for green corridors between rural and city areas as part of its green infrastructure efforts. Will the program fund a pilot activity? Maybe I would turn this question to Nico.
Yes, thanks, Verena. Thanks also for the question. It's not possible for us to answer, unfortunately. We would need much more information. I could just mention that a pilot needs to be joint according to the regulation, so we do not have the choice there. And what does it mean to be joint? There is a notion of interregionality, interregional character in the pilot. So we need to understand that either you transfer a practice from another region, or you have discussed with several partners a new idea, and some of them try it, and you all learn from it. But the question as it is put there, it's too complex. The notion of pilot action is too complex to answer like this. I would also mention that anyway, at the end of the day, there's a maximum of 1 pilot per region that is possible. But voila, you would need to develop a bit more this question so we are able to answer.
And I don't know if the person is listening right now, but if you would like to, you can also approach us with your project idea, ask for feedback for your project idea, where you would be able to describe a little bit more in detail your ideas, what's planned, what's the setup, what kind of partners, what kind of activities you have in mind. And then I think we would be able to give you more, let's say, tailor-made feedback to this question. Okay, I think we tackled the one about the follow-up phase and the reporting. So the case of 2 partners from the same country, for instance, 1 municipality from a region and 1 university from another region, but the same country, and strongly skilled on the topics related to the policy addressed, is it allowed? So this is a question from Rafaela, and I will turn it to Nico.
Yeah, it's interesting question. It is allowed in a way. It's not the most common configuration, let's be honest, because usually when you address a policy instrument, it's most of the time the partners from the region that are participating and address these policy instruments. Now, if the policy instrument is quite specific and there is a university from another region that really can help in addressing and improving this policy instrument, of course, the policy responsible authority or the partner involved can involve this university to address this policy instrument.
Okay, thanks. So I hope it's clear to Rafaela. Can a university be a consultant of a public authority? Nico.
Maybe I will need Alexi on this, but I think we need to distinguish here the role between a partner and a consultant. If for the project there's a need for expertise at a very specific moment, limited in time, etc., the public authority can, of course, indeed launch a procurement and select a relevant provider for this service or for this task. And of course, if the procurement is applied, it can be the university. That's possible. But you see, there are several elements behind it. You need to respect procurement, etc. Now, if the university, as like with the question before, is much more interested in the whole project, is an important stakeholder for the policy instruments, and will provide expertise on, in brackets, expertise during the whole project lifetime, maybe it should become a partner together with a public authority.
I actually have nothing to add. It was pretty clear. Thank you, Nico.
Super. Oh, interesting question. What is the best way to report bugs in the portal? So this refers to the online application form, the Interreg Europe portal. We are registering in your organization, public one, and then we save the funding rate displays 70% instead of 80%. Actually, I will take liberty to answer this one. Really sorry that you run into this let's say issue. It's true that we were made aware of such a bug yesterday. We saw that it happens in a few cases. We're about to fix it. You may want to send an email with a specific situation and name your organization. You can send the email to info@interregeurope.eu, and this will allow us to correct right away the situation with your organization so that you can move on and also start to fill in the budget properly for your organization in the application form. So you can send an email to info@interregeurope.eu. Then we have, well, 3 more questions left, going to the end. Regarding the financing, 85% is EU contribution and 15% is self-financing. Can that 15% be in-kind contribution like in Erasmus+? Alexi.
Okay, so again, the co-financing rates changed for the next programming period. So it's either 80% of ERDF contribution or 70%. Now to go back to your question, if by in-kind contribution, you mean that the contribution can come from your own resources, of course, it's possible. It can come from your own resources in general or from other external sources.
Okay, I hope that's clear. Okay, sorry, someone repeated the question. So if you're still listening, I would invite you to later on check the recording of the session because the question about the Alpen space, the difference with Alpen space was answered, and also the one for the next call. So the second call will be planned most likely next year. So you will find then, let's say, in the recording, the more detailed answers. When is the next QA session? Maybe Mia, you can show a little slide on this. We prepared. Actually, we will have 3 more online question and answer sessions. It will be from now on every Friday, every second Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning, Central European Summer Time. So the next one is scheduled for the 22nd of April. And then there's one on the 6th of May and the 20th of May. You will be able to sign up to those sessions on the Interreg Europe website, on the program homepage. And on top of this, we also planned some, let's say, more specific workshops. And can we see the dates for this? Super, thanks. So there's a lead applicant webinar week last week of April, where we have, let's say, 4 webinars prepared for you. Every day will focus on a different, let's say, aspect of your application. So 25th of April, we'll start with partnerships. Then we move on with project methodology. Then we will talk about management, budget, and finances. And then on the 28th of April, about project communication. So each webinar is scheduled for 1.5 hours at 10 o'clock in the morning, Central European summertime. And again, you're very welcome to sign up, join those, get some insights. And for all of those sessions, if you're not able to make it, don't worry, they will be recorded and they will be made available. Next to this, we have also a few more other tools for you in store to help you with the preparation of your application form. So on the program website, there's a self-assessment tool that will allow you to check the relevance of your project idea. You can also make use of the partner search tool and the project idea search to find other project ideas, to get inspiration, to publish your own project idea. To look for partners. So to look for partners, you know, to be part of the community. So if you didn't register, if you didn't create your account yet, please do so, because not only it allows you to make use of the tools, but it will also allow you to so that other people can find you. So depending on, let's say, the areas of interest you may fill in your profile, other people may also find you and would like to contact you for your expertise. If you have a, let's say, project idea that is a little bit more advanced already, you can also ask for feedback from the Secretariat. So in this case, you submit, let's say, a draft of your project idea, and you would get a very tailor-made feedback, either in a video call or in written. And all these services are open for you until the lifetime of the call. And keep in mind that the call closes on 31st of May. So yeah. We have 6 weeks more or less left to finalize the application form. I think that's pretty much it for today. I want to thank again the colleagues for the support. Mia and Josephine, Nico and Alexi. I'm checking once more if we have questions left. I think maybe in the chat. 1 second, I'm just opening. We have a few more questions, which we will still take. Can a private company represent a municipality? Alexi, maybe this is a question for you.
Okay, can a private company represent a municipality? So I'm not sure to totally understand it, to understand what you mean by represent exactly. I remind you first that as partners, we can only have private non-profit entities. But as Nico also explained a bit earlier, sometimes partners, they need on a specific task, on a specific activity, external help. So a private company could help on a specific task, provided that all public procurement rules are, of course, complied with. So in this instance, it would be possible. Then what you mean by represent, I'm not totally sure to understand.
Okay, Fortis, so I hope it answered your questions. If not, feel free to come back in the next Q&A session and flag up again the question or contact us by email. Last question for today. It will be a question from Beata, and it will be for Nico. What is the difference between the lead partner and the advisory lead partner?
Well, I think this could also be for Alexi, but the commonality is that they are both lead partner, meaning they are managing the project, so leading and coordinating everything. But the advisory partner has a very special status in Interreg Europe. It's not so common, to be honest. It's an organization that do not address any policy instrument, that is not involved to improve any policy instrument, but is involved because he has a special competence, expertise, we could say, in either in the subject of the project or in the communication. He's in charge of the full communication package, whatever. So this partner is there to help and accompany the rest of the partnership. And this kind of organization can also be lead partners if justified, of course.
Okay. I see Marina is having a question. Can a university be the lead responsible of the proposal? And I suggest this is really the last question for today. But I guess Marina is still here. So can a university be a lead responsible of the proposal?
Again, in terms of status, I think Alexei explained also, apart from private non-profit, you cannot be lead partner. If you are a public authority or a public equivalent, you can lead a proposal. So that's not at all an issue. All of this, especially the question on the private company, we would never repeat enough that this program is there for policy makers and for exchanging experiences, finding inspiration in public intervention. That's the main thing you should remember, I think, about Interreg Europe, because all our rules and requirements more or less derive from this rationale.
Okay, thanks, Nico. I think it's clear. So that's it. Really, thanks a lot for your interest in the program. Thanks a lot for staying until the end. We overused a little bit our time, but I hope it was helpful for all of you. We managed to answer all the questions we received. Thanks a lot again to Alexei and Nico for sharing your knowledge. I wish you all a very nice day. Good luck with the preparation of your application form. And well, you're invited to come back on the 22nd for the next round of questions.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.